Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's January 11th, 2025. Just want to say welcome back to the channel. I'm feeling a little deja vu with those fires in Los Angeles, Palisades. There's multiple. Um, it kind of reminds me of the Paradise, California fires or the Hawaii fires of, what was it, last summer. Um, I lived in Lake Tahoe for 11 years, and while I lived there, we went through there was three separate Yosemite fires. One was caused by a hunter who didn't properly put out his campfire. The second one was blamed on a dry lightning, and the third one, I'm not 100%, I can't remember. But I just remember the quality that we had, like the smoke, which Yosemite and Lake Tahoe is probably 500 plus miles away. And it was like just god awful. You know what I mean? I'm a smoker, and it's a little tough on the lungs. Um, we had the summer of 2022, we had the Tahoe Rim fire, and I remember it started like at the base about 50 miles before Markeuroville, and then that leads into Myers, and then from Myers itself, Lake Tahoe. We had 50-mile-an-hour winds when that thing kicked off, and that fire moved 50, 60 miles in one day. So it went from Markeuroville through Myers all the way to like the doorsteps of the neighborhood where I lived at the very top of the hill on the last street in South Lake Tahoe. We got evacuated. Dude, fire with winds like this, you could have 100, 1,000 aircrafts, and like you're gonna barely be able to contain it, if you can even contain it. So just to put it in perspective, prayers to anybody affected in California. That's crazy. But don't forget, last summer, you guys up in the Midwest and the East Coast, they had the Canadian wildfires, and like that reminded me of the smoke that we were getting during the Tahoe Rim fire. It was just god awful. Um, and I kind of want to talk about just all the disasters that we've had over the years. All right, so let's get into this. You had the Paradise Fire, which was a land grab. Um, the Tahoe Rim in 2022, they said that it was faulty power line equipment from the company PG&E in California, and it was like a $4 bolt or something that would have prevented that fire. And I remember just the firefighters that showed up from out of state and maybe different countries, they saved the place. I mean, they did absolutely the best that you could do in that situation. And although I don't live there anymore, like I love California, and it's a beautiful place. A lot of people don't realize that the entire West Coast is California, except for Oregon and Washington State. It's huge. You could have every homeless person in the entire country go in there with a rake, and there would still be, fires with dry lightning, or there's somebody's just being careless, right? Or there was a gender reveal, um, where they shot fireworks off and started a huge fire. And so, just let's get into this. I want to say it was last year, um, in northern Minnesota. There's a nuclear power plant. I believe it's in Monticello or Red Wing, but I think this one was Monticello. They had radioactive wastewater runoff go into the rivers of Minnesota, and it took the company over a year to report it. And I can't remember I didn't look into the exact name of the company. Um, but we look at the very recent Georgia fire in a biolab, where there was a guy that worked for the state of Georgia who was like a whistleblower telling everybody that this was the danger zone, highway to the danger zone. He unironically passed away very soon after that fire happened. Um, and then we could go back a little bit further, and we know what happened in East Palestine, Ohio, with the train derailment, where there was chemicals seeping into the creeks and the groundwater, and the EPA shows up and they decide with the railroad company to light a chemical bomb that eventually the smoke came out and affected 22 other states. Who knows what the cancer rates are going to be, but I just remember hearing about pets or cattle just dying. All the fish in the creeks and the river, they're all gone. And the sitting president at the time still hasn't, to this day, shown the people of East Palestine, Ohio, and the surrounding areas any. They're just, it's ridiculous. So if you think about that, might be like the biggest ecological disaster outside of the 1989 oil spill in Alaska, or the BP Horizon. What was that, 2005? It's been a long time, but people memory hold that like it never even happened. And then, just think about in 30 years when it comes out that everybody that was in that area is going to be riddled with, cancer or worse, or what, you know what I mean? And they didn't get any help from anybody. I mean, outside of, I think, Aaron Brockovich came out there. But just remember, like, very recently in Oklahoma, they've had hundreds or even thousands of earthquakes the last, 5 to 10 years. And a lot of people were saying that it was caused by the fracking. But if you go back, I believe it was 1812 was the last time that the New Madrid fault line went off, and it was so powerful that the Mississippi River was flowing backwards, right? So, and I don't know, they said something about with that most recent eclipse that we had, where they were closing schools and bringing out the National Guard. That, there was a theory that the New Madrid was going to go off. Um, you know, TBD. That could still happen at any time. Um, let's go back in history and think about the Tuskegee experiments, where the U.S. military gave black soldiers and citizens in the Deep South syphilis on purpose. Then they had in the 80s, there was a New York Black Ops facility, I believe it was Montauk. I could be wrong on that, but I heard that the reason that Lyme's disease with ticks is such a prevalent thing now is because they weaponized Lyme's disease with ticks. I know that sounds weird, but when you know that in the 50s, the U.S. Navy sprayed Operation Sea Spray over San Francisco, and a lot of the citizens of San Francisco died like maybe 10 to 15 years later, all due to this government Operation Sea Spray. I mean, so when you got Lyndon B. Johnson saying during Vietnam that he who controls the weather controls the world, and to think we haven't had HARP and DARPA and all these black ops with black ops that literally have more money than any other country, and there's no audit. You can't audit them. They're off the books. So it's just, we see the complete government, either it's incompetence or gross negligence. I'm not sure. But it's just, you know, we got rumors of another pandemic in China. They've already, in the states of California, New York, Illinois, they brought back where if you're in the hospital, you got to have a face diaper or a mask. And, we saw what happened last time. And I'm just going to say it like this in this video. I will not comply, nor do I consent to forced medical experiments with no medical trials and pharmaceutical companies immune from lawsuits, from adverse effects. They put everybody's lives at risk. They put most people's careers on the line. Um, the Fauchie, Ouchie is going to be, it's going to come out that it was the greatest crimes against humanity of all time. Book that. You can book that. Um, and then I remember Ronald Reagan saying that the scariest words that you'll ever hear is, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. Right? So let's just go back here. All right. We had the Paradise Fire. We had the Lahaina, Hawaii fire last summer. We had the Canadian wildfire last summer. I lived through 3 different Yosemite fires in 3 years in Tahoe, and then one that threatened my actual town. The whole town got evacuated. It was crazy. Um, we had a nuclear reactor um, putting nuclear wastewater in the rivers in Minnesota. We have a Georgia biolab fire very recently with the whistleblower that was an inspector for the state. It's a big black guy. Can't remember. He had a heart attack like less than a week after that. Um, the East Palestine train derailment, which basically the EPA and the railroad company let off a chemical bomb that affected 22 United States, uh, including Ohio. Might be the biggest f up of all time. And then don't forget we had just the hundreds and thousands of earthquakes in Oklahoma. Maybe the New Madrid fault line is active. Don't forget that our government has not only poisoned the water for 50 years, they poison your food. They're turning off the water hydrants where there's going to be fires. They had the Tuskegee experiments. We had the Montauk facility in upstate New York where they weaponized Lyme disease. I mean, they gave U.S. soldiers and citizens syphilis on purpose. Think about forced immunizations of the Native Americans and all U.S. citizens. If you want to go to public schools, you have to get like 47 vaccinations, I think, right now. It's a lot. And I'm not saying don't get a vaccination ever. I'm just saying don't take one that hasn't been in medical trials for 22 years. Okay? Don't take one that's where the pharmaceutical companies are immune from any adverse effects lawsuits. Okay? So let's break it. I mean, we're going to break this down here. Our government and every one of its agencies have failed us over and over and over again. And all of our tax dollars went to Ukraine or Israel or funding some genocide or war or some human trafficking scheme. I just they poisoned everything, and now we have TikTok attention spans, and nobody has read. Please do yourself a favor. Get an actual physical book, open it up, and read it from time to time. Your brain's gonna thank you. All right. And I'm just saying that I picked the wrong career path. If I knew what I could get away with as a politician, where I show up for a third of the year, I don't do anything. I get paid 175K a year. I get all the insider trading. I'm immune from prosecution for corruption and crimes while I'm in office. I can take kickbacks. I mean, I listen, I just want you to know that Alex Levac in 2028 is running for some kind of office in the state of Arizona. All right. All right. Well, until the next one, you guys, thanks for tuning in. Hit the like, hit the bell. It's free. Thank you. Really helps the channel grow. We'll see you next one. I'm out.